I recently started working on a huge project, a video game, my dream game, one whose scope is far too big for me alone. But I'm determined to at least get a basic prototype so that I can fill out my portfolio a bit more. And how complex the game ends up being by the end of this journey is a mystery. Things could be cut out like crazy, or maybe I'll add in more systems. And maybe sometime down the line, more people will help me on this adventure. But for now, I'm just really enjoying developing my game, and I wanted to share the process of me making it with you guys. The game, frankly, is a 3D city building strategy game, inspired by the likes of RimWorld, Age of Empires, and the Civilization series. I won't add in networking until the majority of the systems are already in the game, so that will be a long time down the line. I'm going to talk about the game as I envision the end product to be, not where it will be anytime soon. Each server will have a planet generated with many tiles, just like this one, based on climate, location, and geographical features. But for the time being, everyone gets the same basic forest tile. The idea is to have players populate the planet and build their civilizations, long-lasting or not. You can expand your empire and trade with others while managing your population and their needs. The idea is to focus on the politics of colony civilization management. The aspects of survival will be simple to understand, but the complexity and most important mechanic will be from the interactions between players, something that will unfold as the server ages. Servers would also be wiped periodically, but this is one aspect of the multiplayer system that I'm not sure about. The terrain is generated procedurally with pel and noise and multiple octaves to allow the terrain to feel more natural, while also being smooth enough to warrant construction. It's a bit hard to get a sense of scale of the tile on its own until I add in more geographical and man-made features like buildings and foliage. But for now, this is how the terrain looks like. If you are interested in how I implemented this system, I'd recommend a video series by Sebastian Legge. He goes into detail about the basics and the advanced concepts of terrain generation. The link will be in the description. In terms of modeling and art, I think it's going to be one of the biggest challenges for this project. I'm not very confident in my modeling skills, but I think it's something that I could get better at with practice. I'm using a simple low poly art style because messing with high definition textures and lots of polygons seems like way too much of a headache, and I really want to focus on the gameplay, not the art, as I think the main interest of this game will be from the complex interactions that can arise from a multiplayer city building game. Over the last couple of weeks I made a tree and a rock model, which took long enough as is for such simple objects. I know basically nothing about Blender, so I'm really actually proud of these two models. I also had a chance to play around with post-processing for a day or two. Obviously something that is not necessary and definitely not a part of my minimum viable product, but it was something I was interested in. I didn't know how easy or hard it was to set up, so I just gave it a go. I made a simple script to adjust depth of field, but other than that, adding a vignette and motion blur was as simple as clicking a few buttons. Very interested in learning more about the shader system in Unity and more post-processing effects, as well as the different rendering pipelines, but for now I'm going to leave post-processing as it is until more of the important features are in the game. The building system is the last thing I worked on in the last couple of weeks, which you can probably tell by the placeholder house model. The game will feature a building system like Age of Empires with pre-made models for explicitly designed buildings, unlike RimWorld or games like Prison Architect, where you can design rooms however you want. The reason for this is to once again focus on the politics aspect of the game by minimizing the time that the player concentrates on making their city look pretty, and more time focusing on how they can expand it and interact with the other players on the server. I allow the player to rotate the building and place them wherever they want with no real grid. I don't think that this will be a serious limitation, although I may be wrong as I haven't had the chance to implement pathfinding yet, and pathfinding on a grid is definitely much easier than with buildings being placed wherever the player decides. Although this project is huge and something that I likely won't finish on my own, I'm still finding lots of enjoyment out of working on it. Typically, I have a big problem with continuing these projects after the inspiration wears off, so I need to stay determined and committed to this game. I think it's something that can turn out to be really, really cool if I end up committing to it a lot more. This isn't necessarily my first game, so some of these systems that I want to be implementing, like networking and procedural generation, I've already done before. But if you are considering starting on your own game, I would recommend starting with a very small game, like a platformer or anything like that, because complex systems like networking and procedural generation will take just as long to make on their own as a small game prototype. And having a finished game is much better than having a finished system. If you have any ideas for my little game project idea, let me know in the comments, and if you for some reason want to get in touch with me, I'll put a Discord link in the description. Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing what you guys think. And that's it. Thank you. Goodbye.
Alright, kick back, relax, and grab yourself a beverage. Or hop if you wanna just bounce to my leverage. The evidence, as they say, is in the pudding. So show me the money like my name was Cuba Gooding. It ain't fool's gold, it's gold, fool. Can't stop, won't stop, keeping it old school. So cool. Big Spoon is my nom's a plume. I keep it popping like a needle in a new